What's up, YouTube? Man, it's your boy, Action Jackson. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the quote that Michael Gallup gave about him. Basically, just him saying how he's back in health and also how he needs to step up, to make a break year for him. Same thing with Jalen Tolbert, man. So before we hop into the video, I would appreciate if you guys would like the video. Subscribe if you're new, comment, and share my video with anyone who you know will like my content, man. But, man, I'm going to quickly go over his quote about what he said. Shout out to David Moore. He worked closely with the Dallas Cowboys, but this is just a quote from Michael Gallup. It has been a year and 5 months since he has been recovered from his ACL on this play against the Arizona Cardinals, but he said, last year at this time I couldn't walk. It's different now. I feel springy again. It just feels different. It's kind of like in the air. I'm smiling every time I walk in. So really, he just expressing about how he's getting his athleticism back. And it's really great to hear that. That just lets you know that his recovery process is doing pretty well, and he's back in that. He's back to feeling himself. And I just think that with the Dallas Cowboys, they didn't do him any favors. So I'm quickly about to go over last year's stats. But before I go into that, I just didn't think that the Dallas Cowboys didn't do him any service, man. You rushed him back, and I was saying all offseason that he shouldn't have been back until, November. So I felt like his first game should have came either in the Minnesota Vikings game or the New York Giants on Thanksgiving. That's personally me of when I felt like he should have been back in the game because, it takes 11 months, almost a full year for you to recover. And they said 11 months from the post-injuries when you're able to at least come back and play a game. Within those mid-months, you're able to, rehab and practice a little bit lightly and things like that. But I just felt like last year there was a common theme with receivers or any skill position that suffered a major ACL injury. They were rushing them back. Like, look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that played, Chris Godwin had torn his ACL December, 18th last year, so a week before Michael Gallup. And he started the season, and he caught one low screen pass for Tom Brady. He got hit right in his knee, the same knee he got his torn ACL on. And, he was out for about another 3 to 4 weeks. And I was proud the Dallas Cowboys going to bring him back week 1, even though we desperately needed a number 2 wide receiver. But, they brought him back week 4 and October 2nd. I just think that was just it was just bad. I felt like, he wasn't ready. And at that time, it only had been 8 to 9 months since the injury. I just didn't feel like it was right. I felt like they should have brought him back in November. But I understand the pressures probably from the front office because they were probably telling him, we need you because, we screwed ourselves over. And that's mainly Dallas Cowboys' fault. Bringing him back early. And also, you didn't get any wide receiver help. So since you didn't get any wide receiver help, it was tough for Michael Gallup, and Michael Gallup had all this immense pressure on him, which we shouldn't have brought on him if we would have drafted better at receiver position. And it is what it is. But if we're just going over his stats, and what I feel like he needs to be better at is he only had 424 yards in last year, and that was even on a bum knee. He caught 4 touchdowns. His first game back, he scored a touchdown, but he had 2 catches for 24 yards. He averaged 12 yards of reception. His second biggest game that he got was the Indianapolis game. It was, he caught the ball 4 times, 23 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then he got a crucial catch in the back end zone. He caught 4 passes for 36 yards. He averaged 9 yards of reception, got a touchdown. So, he was very solid for us last year, but he just definitely wasn't himself. He wasn't able to start, stop, and start again. So on those double moves, those out routes, those in routes, it was very hard for him to do that. And we just saw it last year. It was just very painful for him when he looked at it because he wasn't himself, and you can tell. And like I said, again, the Dallas Cowboys didn't do him any favors. And also, he even was dealing with him tearing his ACL in December against the Cardinals. He also, from the injury in December, he also was suffering other injuries. That's why he had to get a cleanup surgery at the end of the season, man. But really, it's a make-or-break year for him because if you just look at his contract on Spotrac, The Cowboys have a potential out to get out of next year. So I think the Dallas Cowboys are looking at it as a make or break year for him, and Michael Gallup has to be looking at it as well, because once we get out of his contract, we'll only suffer a $13 million cap hit in 2024, and then it lessens each and every year. So it will be $8 million in 25 and 4.3 in 26. But really, man, in this league, there's no such thing as three good cornerbacks. There's really great tandems in the league, but there's no such thing as three great cornerbacks. There's always going to be a weak spot in the cornerback room somewhere. You know, you look at the cornerback duos around the league. You look at Miami just now with X Howard, Jalen Ramsey. Our division already has two solid corners in Philly with Bradbury and Darius Slay. You look at the Niners, they got solid corners. So there's solid, cornerback ones and twos out there, but there's not a shutdown cornerback, nickel in the league. So really, if Michael Gallup can just come into this year really and get you around like 700 yards, 800 yards at the best, and just be a plus, just be a plus to the football team. When Dak is looking for you late in the game, 50-50 jump ball, when he occasionally throws those balls, Michael get him. He has to separate, and that's not so much of his game. His separating, he's not much of a route runner. He's more of the 50-50 type of guy. He will beat you, and if you give him a chance and everything like that. But he's more of he's going to beat you with 3 or 4 yards of separation. It's going to look, he might be open on like 1 or 2 yards, but in the league, open is different between the league and then college and everything like that. So in college, you might be running 5-10 yards away from somebody that's open, but in the league, a corner can be right in his hip pocket. The quarterback has to know he has to throw it in a position to where only Michael Gallup can get it and things of that nature. So if Michael Gallup can just be a plus instead of a minus like how he was last year, he stepped up in some games. Like I said, he was solid for you in that Tampa Bay Buccaneer game. He was solid for you in Philly. He was solid for you in Indianapolis. He was solid for you his first game back. He was okay coming out in that Giants game on Thanksgiving. Like, he was solid. Those were some of his pluses. But more times than not, he was a minus. Like, he couldn't separate in that Philadelphia game. The Rams, he had some decent catches. But for sure, if Michael Gallup was healthy in most of these games, I felt like we would have had a better output into last year's season. And like I said, going back to the league part, if he can just, like I said, contribute, have 700-800 yards, he can really be the third best receiver on our team. And, he can open it up for a guy like Cooks, our tight ends, CeeDee Lamb. If he can just take the pressure off of those guys and, just be a constant mismatch for corners, I think we'll be okay. Like I said, just needs to be a plus, and this is a make-or-break year for him because the Dallas Cowboys can get rid of him in his contract after 2024. Moving on to Jalen Tolbert, I think Jalen Tolbert's in a similar situation. We have Brandon Cooks for the next 2 years. If Michael Gallup steps up, I think Jalen Tolbert's job might be in question. I understand they're probably not going to let go of him maybe until like his third, fourth year, depending on how things go. But this is his second year. And I understood it was a little bit hard for, Jalen Tolbert, because most of the times he would, he would get in training camp in first team reps, but mostly he was working with Cooper Rush and Will Greer, our third string quarterback. But, he did look great in camp when he had Dak Prescott throwing him the ball, of course. But I think Jalen Tolbert had a lot of tough times, I think, transitioning to the NFL. He played at South Alabama, which was a very, very, very small school. He didn't play at no West Alabama. He didn't play at the Alabama. He didn't play at any of those top major schools. He played in a very small school where every time that Jalen Tolbert stepped out on the field in college, he was most likely the best player, the best athlete. And when you get drafted to the NFL, everyone's an athlete. Everyone can play. Everyone that's there starting or even second string, that's a skill position, they all can play. And I just think that Michael Gallup, as a rookie, had a very tough time transitioning the playbook. When you come into that Kellen Moore system, he's running a bunch of option routes. Every receiver has an option route on the play. So depending on leverage and everything like that, that determines whether or not he's in breaking, out breaking, stopping, going, whatever route, that the playbook dictates or the play dictates. That's what Jalen Tolbert had to run. So I think it was very tough for him to get down and get a grasp of the playbook. Just because that, you look at week 1, he didn't get much reps, and an undrafted free agent in Dennis Houston was starting over him, and we desperately needed another wide receiver, and Jalen Tolbert can step up. But I also felt like that was the Dallas Cowboys coaching staff not getting him ready enough for him to step up on the field, knowing that Kellen Moore and Mike McCarthy both knew that the front office had handicapped you guys in the offseason. So it was very crucial that you guys got certain players on the field like Kissimmee Fehoko, Jalen Tolbert, getting him ready, especially when you guys drafted Jalen Tolbert top 100. He was an 88th overall pick in the 3rd round. I think you guys need to utilize him. I'm not giving up on the kid. I still like Jalen Tolbert. I know a lot of guys are over the hill on him, and they don't have much grace for him. And, you guys just got to realize, man, it's, you have to give some of these guys grace because, it's a big time transition from college to NFL. You even look at the guys that play in the SEC. They even say, like, you know what? Hey, yeah, I play in the SEC, and that's the best conference in college football, but it's still a major transition from college to the pros. And so, especially if you're playing from a smaller school, that's even more of a bigger transition than from a guy that played in the Big 10, Pac-12, Big 12, SEC. So, I blame that our coaching staff as the reason why Jalen Tolbert wasn't ready to go. But I think Jalen Tolbert is going to step out. I think Jalen Tolbert is going to be really good. I think, again, he's going to be another plus. Because I think that if you can go in this league and you can have 4 wide receivers that can go, I think that really opens up your offense and you'll be all right. I legitimately think that if you can, like I said, 4 wide receivers, you can open it up. It's going to be really tough for a team to stop. You can go 5 wide. Gallup, Cooks, they can take breathers in within games, so that's why they're not so tired or anything like that, and doesn't put stress on their bodies. And I just think that, Jalen Tolbert comes in, he does his thing. Michael Gallup can step up as well. We'll be all right. We'll be in a great transition, and we can get a lot of more things with our tight ends like Ferguson, Hendershot, Schoonmaker. I think a lot of those guys can feed off of those guys if we can get Tolbert, Gallup, Cooks, and CeeDee Lamb all on the same page and they're all running crisp routes and everything of that, man. So that's about it for the video. Hope you guys have a nice day. Stay safe, stay blessed. Bye.